All right. Let's see. Again, no matter which letter you are going to write, when you go to the bottom, when you go towards the end of the letter, the case note, you will come across the main purpose for which the letter is being written. So, writing task, you see, it clearly says at the bottom, what does it say? Admitted for short-term emergency accommodation and support service. This must be included in the intro of the letter. If you do not include in the intro of the letter, maybe at least put it at the bottom somewhere in the last, where you request the last or the closing or the ending, where you request the reader yet again about the things that's required, right? So we kind of know everything about the patient's social history, patient's postnatal progress, patient's discharge plan. There is, we have birth details of the patient, and everything is given here. But what do you think, out of everything that we've seen so far in the case note, which one do you think is the reason why we are asking for short-term accommodation? It is directly reflected to the patient's social background. I mean, she lived with her boyfriend, Anton Campbell, abusive relationship, 3 months prior to the childbirth. The biological father is somewhere in Europe, right? She is currently unemployed. Her sisters, blah blah blah, lives overseas. Then we have parents 1.5 years ago, 1.5 years ago. The parents died already, and is also there but lives far. So in phone contact, but nothing significant. So this person, this 20-year-old girl, she doesn't have any place to go. And this is the reason we are asking the manager of uh, this institution or this shelter home to give a temporary place for her to stay until something is figured out. You get the point. So see, so in your letter, no complaints with the format in which you've written the reader's information, the section date, the salutation, everything is fine. The intro, it doesn't have the main purpose. I mean, what is exactly needed? So you're kind of telling, of course, you're kind of correct. Of course, counseling is definitely needed. Necessary care and support is needed, of course. But to be particular, considering who the reader is a refute shelter for women, right? So the director. So you're asking for temporary residence, not residence, sorry, accommodation. So if you skip that part, your letter basically is gone. The purpose is gone from the letter. So if you once you include that thing in the intro of the letter, then in the second paragraph you're going to tell why doesn't this person have a home, and what is the reason why you're asking for temporary accommodation. You clarify that, right? So, first paragraph and second paragraph has such dynamics that whatever you write in the intro should always be proved in the second paragraph. So, if in the introduction of the letter you ask, I'm writing regarding Miss Ray, yes, currently hospitalized under our care, or who recently delivered a 5-year-old baby or something like that, for temporary accommodation. Once you mention temporary accommodation, then in the second paragraph, tell why. Abusive relationship, father of the baby somewhere overseas, sister also overseas, and in phone contact. But I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. There's nobody at the moment to take care of the patient, and there was the parents have already died. She just doesn't have any place to go at the moment. So that social history of yours is going to be the proof in the letter. Now, besides spelling, I mean, it's a language examination. I do not need to tell you that it is not good. It is not suggest. I mean, it's not good to use wrong spelling. I've already told you the repercussions of wrong spelling, so correct it. Now here, the second paragraph is completely senseless. Of course, it is important. I mean, it is not important from the perspective of a manager who is a layman's. I mean, telling the hemoglobin is 135, telling the baby's weight to be this much. You can just say that a healthy baby was born. That's it. So recently, so this paragraph basically is going to be your second paragraph. Recently, Miss Ray has no connection. with the baby's father. She lives. Why is that S small? You have to keep it capitalized. Remember, I've told this on multiple occasions. I'm going to tell this yet again. Excessive usage of comma, minimal usage of comma, not using a full stop or period, using capitalized in the place of small and vice versa is not taken very well by the assessors. Fix it. I mean, capitalization is very important. Since 3 months, for 3 months actually. Hence now she does not. Does and not will have space. If you put it together, you have to write it in the contracted form. That's going to be doesn't. Fix that. Want to stay with him. She's suffering. Don't use the word suffer in OET. For depression by reason of parent's death. No, that's a very casual way to write. She has depression relatable to or related to her parent's death. Parent co-death, there was going to be an apostrophe after S. She also has a history of tonsillectomy. How is it related? I mean, the manager of a refuge center, knowing that the patient had tonsillectomy once upon a time, how is it going to change anything? How is it going to change? How that information is going to do anything to the reader of the letter? It has no significance whatsoever. But if you write, imagine if this patient had some throat infection or pneumonia or something, or if you're referring the same patient to a surgeon, then a surgical history would be needed. So always think like this. Who the reader of the letter is. The reader of the letter is a layman's, is a manager of a refuge center, telling that in the patient had tonsillectomy. I mean, what can the reader particularly do if he or she gets this information? That okay, the patient had tonsillectomy. Now, what am I supposed to do? Why is the writer telling me that the patient had tonsillectomy? If imagine the patient recently had tonsillectomy and the patient cannot speak properly or there is some infection, then maybe you have to include this information. But here it has no significance. In light of the above, Miss Ray, no, you don't do this. You have two closings. Whenever you use this in light of the above, this is a popular format in OET. So once you use this is already considered as a closing of the letter. So what you actually are intending to do here is writing a discharge plan. So during discharge, at the time of discharge, regarding the discharge, then you write whatever is needed when the patient leaves our hospital. Then if you write, I would highly appreciate, or you can start the paragraph with in light of the above. Just one. So both are closing here. So change this and bring regarding the patient's discharge plan or something like that. Or for future care, this is needed, that is needed. I would highly appreciate it. We don't need it. If we don't put if in the middle, I mean comma before if it comes in the middle. If you could monitor her ongoing postnatal, what postnatal? Ongoing postnatal what? Period. With local maternity health service. So in the whole letter, you have not put anywhere what is the main purpose. I mean, the reason why we're writing to the manager is for temporary accommodation, and you've not included that. Now, yours faithfully, okay, let's check at the top. Do we know the name of the reader? I think we don't know. If you do not know the name of the reader, then you're safe. There. Okay. All right. So not going to, there are many mistakes. You need to correct it. Let's check. Right, the director. Let me show you here. The director. Then shelter for, not refuse. REFUG, refuse মানে কিন্তু নাই মানলো. I am refusing to go to picnic tomorrow. That's a spelling error at the top itself. Bad impression. The director refused shelter for women, then 105, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Date format, correct. Dear director, also correct. You can also write, dear sir, madam. Miss Riya Ray. Don't you think that the age is important? She's very young, 20 years old, and had a baby. And she's in a complicated situation. She doesn't have any job or anything to support herself. So I'm writing this letter to refer Miss Ray into your care, who needs to be admitted for. No, it's not an admission. Remember, the place where you're writing the letter is not a hospital. It is just like a, I don't know, like ashram manam, no? Like we call in Nepali or Hindi. Ashram. It's like that. The place where, the patient can live for a while. It's not admission. That's a wrong choice of word there. Short-term emergency accommodation and support services. She was admitted in our center on this date and now ready for discharge today. Okay, makes sense. Whatever you've written there makes sense. I mean, at least you've put accommodation and support services are required, right? That is a very strong word. Who needs to be admitted? Actually, doesn't need to be admitted. Miss Ray lives with her current boyfriend. Uh, that's a comma splice. Miss Ray lives with her current boyfriend, and you've put a comma there, right? That's a splice of comma, a comma splice. That's called in grammar. The meaning is that you needed a connector here. Miss Ray lives with her current boyfriend, who is 23 years old, and he's 23 years old. You needed something there, a connector or a relative clause such as who. But you've not put that. Instead of that, you're using comma as a connector. So this phenomenon in grammar is called comma splice. So we add something there, such as who. Who is 23 years old, comma, is verbally abusing her for 3 months. Therefore, she doesn't want to live with him and is not the father of her child. Do you think that the sentence became a bit long? Okay. So why not to use a bit of signposting, see like this, regarding. That's fine. Size is not a concern regarding Miss Ray's um, social social background. She regarding Miss Ray's social background, she was living with her boyfriend. Giving the name is an option. With her boyfriend, she's living with her boyfriend, who was verbally abusive for 3 months. Hence, the patient, or she also you can use, is currently reluctant to continue living with her. Yeah, please note that the biological biological father of this is in Europe. Europe, right? She has a sister or her next to kin, like this. Her next to kin is her sister who also uh, lives abroad. However, however, she is in contact with her aunt. You can also put it like this via phone. Yeah. So her parents are no more. No more. Given the situation, given the situation, let's write it somewhere. Given the situation, she does not have accommodation for her and her family. Something like that. Just simplify it, make it understandable for the reader. Yes. Additionally, you can also add things here. She doesn't have a job, she's unemployed and everything. You can put that. After that, you can just write about the child. Normal, everything is normal, nothing special. There's nothing wrong with the child. Weight and everything, well, condition of the child is fine. That's it. We do not need to talk about it. Here, Father, you can put your opinion, but in such a way that the reader understand, and it should be concurrent with the case note. I mean, the case note it clearly says the reason why she doesn't want to live is because she has been in a abusive relationship and she doesn't want to continue living with the same person, isn't it? So, what is the main objective of writing the whole letter? She doesn't have any place to go. Then you can write warranting your help, or something like that, assistance. Regarding her medical and obstetric history, she underwent we don't care about that. I mean, tonsillectomy's history at the age of 14, that was 6 years ago. It doesn't play any role in the current status of the patient. So we remove it. And as depression, yes, you can talk about this is an ongoing thing, right? So regarding her medical history, she is depressive. She has depression related to the demise of her parents. She gave birth to a baby girl on this day. Okay, completely accepted. Everything about the baby is right, or the baby is normal. You can mention that's it. And no significant complication was noted during her pregnancy. Postnatal hemoglobin, we don't care about that. And her baby is normal and well feeding. So we just give the conclusion: the mother and maybe baby both are fine. The baby was born with a normal weight without any complication, right? As per her discharge plan, she needs to be referred to women refuge. Why are you writing this? I mean, you're writing to the women refuge shelter, isn't it? Then why do you need to tell in the letter itself, in the discharge plan, that we are writing to the women refuge shelter? See, what happens what happens is that in a clinical setting, you write it on the cardex or you write it in the case note that a referral letter has to be written to the women shelter. So you are the nurse on duty, so you decide that you write a letter. So you're already writing a letter, so why do you need to tell the reader again that the patient needs to be referred? Because you already are referring at the moment to apply for single mother's benefit, and yeah, you can of course write everything here, whatever you've given. I also would like to kindly request you to consider referring her to. Yeah, of course, you can write all these things. It's not a problem, but you get what I mean. So the first sentence of your discharge paragraph, it's irrelevant. In light of the above, I kindly request you to manage it. Okay, makes sense. As long as there's a request, there's no headache in the closing. So you need to bring some alteration. 27, 22. 5 days ago, also you can paraphrase. You do not need to include that many dates. You can always play with it if you want. Change it, change, and it's going to be okay. All right, next letter. write it like simplest form. What do you feel? What is the story? You should tell it to yourself. Okay, so why are we asking for a temporary shelter? Because she's 20-year old. One of the reasons. I mean, age has to be given, isn't it? A 20-year-old child who gave birth unmarried, doesn't have anywhere to go. Next of kin sister lives abroad, contact with the aunt, but she doesn't have any accommodation at the moment. Parents have already died. There's nobody. I mean, the biological father is abroad, and the current person who she lives with is abusive or has been abusive. The event when date of birth and age both are given. I personally prefer to write date of birth in RE and age in the intro. 20-year old female, right? The director of Refuge Shelter for Women. I mean, why to complicate it like this? Doesn't look very good, right? The director, and then right, Refuse Shelter for Women. Then it makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm writing to for Miss Ray, not Riya Ray, Miss Ray, who recently delivered female, who recently delivered a female baby. Yeah, a female baby. She requires short-term emergency accommodation and support services following her discharge. It makes sense. What you need from the reader is already there, and you've talked about the recent delivery. Makes sense. Miss Ray, see, there's a difference between MS and MISS. Actually, if I were you all, I would have written MISS. Here you see, there's a difference. So you're not proofreading your letter. You need to read it after you write it. So that skill is lacking. It's very difficult to spot your own mistakes. The moment you start finding your own mistakes, of course, you excel. Now, so why do you think that a temporary or emergency accommodation is needed? So, of course, considering abusive relationship, the relationship where the boyfriend is not the biological father, after that she doesn't have any relatives around, plus she had no parents. On top of that, also has depression related to that. So Miss Ray has been leaving at the, that's the meaning, that's spelling leaving भनेको त छोडेर जानु नि LIVING हुन्छ not LEAVE leave भनेको टाढा जानु with her current boyfriend he is not a father of baby. Oh, he's not the father of the baby. That's how you write. Or why not to connect it? Whenever possible, you should connect who is not the father of the baby. If you put who after boyfriend, it's already going to do the job. He is verbally abusive. Her over her obvious. He is verbally abusive. Her no. He has been verbally abusing her. So, the tense usage is wrong, and actually the sentence formation itself is wrong. For over last 3 months. Therefore, she does and not will have space. Otherwise, it's going to be in a contracted form. Want to leave Ferical Tipo with him. The actual father of the baby is out of contact. She has depression since her parents co apostrophe is needed after parents s. Her next of kin or next to kin is her sister, who again that's a comma splice. Who lives in no, who lives overseas in लेख्नु पर्दैन. You don't need in. She has no one to look after. Yes, I'm glad that you've included this information. This is your summary. She has no one to go after. She doesn't have anybody with her at the moment, and that's the reason why you're asking the director to look after her. That's the main reason we are referring to your center. Yes, very good. At least you've felt that this information is needed. So we can make it be better. So I see that you have a tendency of using many simple sentences. Remember, wherever possible, you should form compound sentences and complex sentences. If the two sentences have similarity with the information. Like Miss Ray has been living with her current boyfriend. He is not the father of the baby. He is verbally abusive. Don't you think these three sentences have connection? So if you do not connect, the assessors feel that this examinee doesn't have the capacity to connect, and show compound or complex sentences. That skill is evaluated, right? So I've told you wherever necessary amends have to be made, and please follow that. Now, after that, the baby was born on this day with birth weight of this currently the mother and the baby are stable and healthy. Yeah, that's the main thing that it has to be stated. However, she needs emotional support and counseling from clinical psychologists regarding. Okay, makes sense. We also have other things that's needed. Okay, you've written here. At the time of discharge, she was advised to apply for single mother benefit. She was advised to apply for single mother benefit. I think it's single mother's benefit. And was further advised to liaise with local maternity health service for ongoing postnatal monitoring. She was referred to your women's refuge. No, no, it's wrong. I mean, you already are writing a referral letter, then why do you need to tell the reader that she needs to be referred? So it feels as if, after the reader reads the letter, again, the reader is going to refer somewhere else. It doesn't make sense, isn't it? Considering the above, it would be great, it would be appreciated if you could provide necessary arrangement for Miss Ray and her baby. Hmm. Of course, it's fine, but letter has many problems. Sentence formation errors, mostly, right? Hemoglobin and all these medical things don't need to be told to layman's. Yeah, keep that in your mind.